Hey, what's up? You're watching JUNO TV. My name is Stokes, and I'm here with the Violent Femmes. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
All right.
We're doing very well, Stokes.
Good. Welcome to Toronto. 33 years plus. Right around that area. What is it about your music that's it's timeless? What do you think the secret is there?
Go ahead.
Well, that's a good question, and there is an answer to that. When we started, when we recorded our first album, we intentionally tried to strip it of any production values that would link it to the time that it was recorded in the early 80s. So we were not trying to be retro, but we were just trying to go for a timeless sound. And then that explains why the production and the sound of the band is still relevant, because it was able to survive into what is now the future, which is the present. And as far as the material itself, probably the simplicity and universal nature of some of the themes that Gordon explored lyrically clearly have resonated with multiple generations of listeners, and that's the reason why when we look out there we see 50, 60-year-old people singing along, and we see 10-year-old kids singing along. So probably just the kind of songs that anybody can relate to.
What do you think about the current music scene now?
A lot of people love to say, oh, music isn't as good as it used to be. But I think it's actually better than it ever was, because if you look back, like when we started and when we were coming up, there was an idea that white guys from America, United States and England could play rock and roll music, but women really were not permitted to. Nobody from other countries, Europeans. You know, now it's opened up quite a bit. And there were one or two dominant styles of music, and now it seems like almost any kind of music can find its own niche. Now, of course, you know, the record industry has collapsed, but in some ways that's been good for music, because it's really forced people to get back out on the road and become good live acts. It used to be that you could just put out records and make a lot of money and not even be a viable, or maybe not even be the same performers that actually were on the record and still have an identity. So my perspective is that there's more good music being made today than ever before. So there's also room for older bands like us within the current music scene. I mean, if you think that, you know, we're playing for people 30 years after we came out, I mean, that was unheard of in the old days. It's like, that would be like pre-Elvis music being listened to in the early 80s when we came up, and that was just not happening. So I think it's a pretty much more inclusive music scene than it ever has been before. So I look at the positive side of it.
I'll just put in there, just in my own life, I know I'm listening to more music and a greater variety of music from all parts of the world, you know, because the internet makes these things available that from a certain number of years ago, that just, you know, or when we started playing, that just didn't, you know, that wasn't possible. That wasn't there. I can listen to a radio station from anywhere and get into certain kinds of music that otherwise I never would have found out about. Yeah. Could
you imagine Violent Femmes in the internet? In the internet, I know he's handing me the mic. In the internet era, could you imagine what it would have been like if you guys had the YouTube and all this other things to launch?
Well, yeah, sure, right. I mean, yeah, I can imagine that. I can imagine that, because I can imagine the future, because the future is the present, as I think was said just a little while ago. Which I thought that's a nice way of putting it. The present is the future.
Right. I mean, I definitely think that it would have been a faster growth for you guys.
Or we might have been just lost in all the stuff, you know. Maybe we did in the old way. Somehow we got a little foot in the door just by being signed, by having an album, by, you know, when MTV was starting, they were asking for videos from anybody, you know, so we got played by MTV because they needed videos, and we did a video, you know. I don't know, you know, I don't know if I might have worked out better for us at that point than maybe it would be, or maybe it was easier then because we had, like I said, we had just got in a little bit to that system. Whereas now, maybe it would be more difficult. I don't know if it'd be easier or more difficult now. I just feel like I'd always felt like the music that we do, the songs that I've written, and then the music that we make together, I felt even from the start that, you know, it will find its audience.
Right.
So I think I would still feel like that now with anything going on, that it's like, you know, it will find its audience, maybe in a different way to find the audience.